I'm about to chat to Donna Wilson, who is a fantastic designer. I enjoyed so much talking to her for my podcast, Conversations of Inspiration, because Donna has a way of making what she does sound simple, but actually it probably is simple. It's just she's a very focused female designer who is celebrated for her niche designs all over the world. Now, after doing this for about 17 years, there's not much she doesn't know about building a business doing what you love. And I can't wait to creatively feel absolutely alive after this conversation.
Hi, I'm Donna Wilson. I'm a knitwear and product designer, and I'm going to be talking to Holly about how to stay positive in these kind of strange, uncertain times, how to evolve your company and stand back and think about what you do a bit, and how important it is to think globally and sell globally, especially when you're doing something quite niche, and lots of other things. Hope you enjoy the listening, and thanks for tuning in.
Hi. Oh, you're there. You're in the studio.
I am. I'm actually in now, which is brilliant.
Oh, that's so nice. I was just saying how we had such a lovely conversation on Conversations of Inspiration, and that I have been avidly buying from you in lockdown. I'm just going to show everyone one of my purchases in lockdown.
Oh, thanks.
I've got this, I've got the big green one, I've got the big log, and I've created an outdoor holiday in my garden.
Oh, amazing. That's so nice.
They're the most beautiful products. You know, I've been boring my other half senseless with, do you understand, Frank, that this is handmade? And he's like, yeah, okay, it's a cushion. You've got a lot. I said, no, it's not any normal cushion. This is a leaf cushion under a tree, How have you been? Because it's been a very odd time for us all. And I know you're a mum of two boys. Yeah. You sell internationally. You sell to boutiques. Before we get into your business, how have you been, Donna?
How have I been personally? Well, I remember when it sort of first got announced that there might be a kind of lockdown. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, how are we going to cope with a lockdown for 2 weeks? And I just thought, how are we going to do this?
You're so right.
Off. And then it's ended up being 4 months. So we've coped. We've got through it. And I'm not going to talk about all the sort of doom and gloom of it all, because everybody kind of knows all that and the homeschooling and all that. But I want to be quite positive today, because there are actually a few positives that have come out of it. It's been challenging. It has been challenging.
What's your main positives then, you would say, that's come out of it when you're now looking at the glass full?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it was really dark times for a while. Yeah. And as you mentioned, I've got 2 boys, so I was homeschooling and not having any sort of headspace to be creative at all. So I was just basically doing the bare minimum, which wasn't really that satisfying for me, and I was really struggling with the homeschooling. It was a nightmare. But the main positive, I would say, I think it's just given us all a bit of a chance to stand back and see what really is important to us. And we probably wouldn't have done that otherwise. So it's given us a bit of a time for contemplation, for thinking, like, do we need to do something different? Because we all know now we need to evolve. We need to figure out our way out of this problem, and what's life going to be like after all this, and is it going to be different or is it going to be the same, and how do we sort of change going forward? So it's definitely made me think a bit about that. I have to say, we've had such great support, and you included in that, from our customers. And for our web sales have really kind of leapt up. I think it kind of increased about 50% in the months, which is just amazing. And that's really helped keep us going. We've been sort of just looking at that and seeing, I mean, this is the part now where we'd normally do our trade shows, and that's where we get, you know, half our new customers and then see half of our old customers again. So it's now like, what do we do now without a trade show? And I have to say, last few years I wasn't enjoying the trade shows so much. It's not as exciting when you've done them 50 times. So it's trying to think, do we need to do them? How can we you know, get to our customers maybe without doing them, and finding new ways of communicating our new products. How do we do that? Do we do like a little Zoom live session with our customers, or it's all a bit of it's all unknown at the moment. So we're now going to a time where it is going to be a bit challenging for us.
But I love that you say that, because I think that we can get caught. I mean, I certainly know this. I was only doing a morning walk with Harriet this morning, and just saying I can get, you know, you can as a small business get caught into things. This is what we do. You know, this time of year we do trade shows. We've always done them. This is where we see our old customers and new customers. You're never challenged to say, but how else, you know, and it's how else could I meet my customers? And unless this had happened, I think it's so right that you bring it up. And for anyone listening, you know, and actually you were saying, truth be told, I wasn't necessarily enjoying them. It wasn't I was enjoying meeting my customers. I enjoyed that. But the monotony of doing it year in, year out, when you're creative people, I think we have to remember as founders, we have to keep feeling creative and innovative. You know, and it's interesting that you say that, because I bet you now, whatever ways you're thinking about doing something clever with your stockists or new stockists will actually make you feel more full and potentially be better for your brand than just doing the same thing again. What's your thoughts there? Because it is this thing that us creators need to feel renewed every now and again.
Because this is my 17th year now.
I mean,
and yeah, I mean, which is an achievement. But the last sort of 2 or 3 years, I've been going to the trade shows and just looking around and seeing the same stuff and looking at my stuff going, this is the same as I've been doing for a long time too. And so a couple of years ago, I had a bit of a time out. I just needed a bit of a break. And I think you forget as a creative, you're just sort of doing the day-to-day stuff all the time, and you never give yourself a chance to see the wood from the trees. And I kind of had this realization at the trade show that I need to take some time out just to be creative, and not give myself pressure to be creative, but just have a bit of headspace. And I did that actually, and a whole new volume of work kind of came from that, which is now what we're doing, all the abstract stuff that we hadn't done before, and we've got new kind of suppliers and things like that. So that was really, really beneficial. And now that I know that how beneficial that was back then, I'm thinking I kind of need to top myself up a bit again. And of course, we've got to find other ways other than because travel used to be, going on holiday used to be such a nice,
a quick fix.
Yeah. Now we can't really do that. So it's remembering. It's like self-care, isn't it? You need to remember to give your brain a little bit of a rest, and just see if those ideas start coming, because you've just taken yourself away from things. And I think that's maybe what this has done a bit. We're designers. We've got to design our way out of this problem and think outside the box. Come up with new ways of working. So
I love that, because you're talking to a creative community, and you know, this will go on to our SME SOS podcast that gets listened to by so many right side of the brainers, you know, who, you know, basically, you know, we potentially talk the talk, but maybe potentially, because we're business owners, feel like we can't walk the walk genuinely, you know. So I think from hearing from you, someone that's so respected, that, you know, you did take that break, and actually commercially, so forget about, you know, even if you think I'm the last on the pecking order, commercially it was fantastic for your business. If you hadn't have had that break, you wouldn't have designed that new range. And I think we all think it's a bit of a cop-out potentially, or that we don't necessarily need it. But if you actually say, well, commercially, it will be good for my business, maybe we'll give ourselves permission. I wanted to ask, one of the things I always recount, I mean, I must say your name, potentially weekly to those I talk to.
Oh,
Because I loved our conversation so much, but you said this thing about, and it really opened my eyes about, and I wondered how it's been in lockdown with the world closing. You talked about, not only in the UK will I have Donna Wilson fans. I look at your fox, correct? It is a fox, isn't it, behind you?
okay.
There are people who will love your designs throughout the globe. And it's not for everyone, but there are pockets across the world. And you said from day one, I never looked at it as a sort of UK thing, which meant that you expanded across the globe. And I think that sometimes small businesses find it so daunting to even think that way. But I now recount that line you said to me to everyone, because the globe is our opportunity. Tell me, A, about that philosophy, and I think it's just great hearing it firsthand, but B, how it's been when the world has closed.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I first started, I was doing, and even now really, but I was doing quite a niche product. At that time, 2003, no one else was making knitted creatures. And I knew that I wanted to make a living from this. I knew that I wanted to make enough to be able to pay myself and pay other people. So I just thought of it as like, well, there's not really enough shops that would like this kind of stuff in the UK. So I need to get to other shops in different countries. And I guess I was quite lucky that I was doing kind of shows in the beginning, small, not really trade shows, but more kind of to the public shows. And I got approached by a Japanese company who wanted to be my distributor. So I knew that there was a kind of market there in Japan. So I thought, well, if there's a market in Japan, there might be a market in other Asian countries. Just getting feedback from your customers is just invaluable. And then also, I just always thought there must be looking for other sort of like-minded designers, seeing where they sell things as well, and always looking out for new opportunities and being open to selling. I never really thought of it as just in fact, my work didn't really sell in the UK for quite a long time.
You said that you were more famous in places like Japan than ever you were in the UK, and then you were like, well, maybe I should start thinking about where I live,
And then we started doing the trade shows. We'd always do the international ones, and we'd do the New York Gift Fair and Maison et Objet. And whenever we did a London show, everyone thought it was too expensive, and they were a bit like, oh, I'm not sure if people get it here. Until I did more of the sort of commercial stuff, which was the towels and the kind of licensing products, then people started. And I think actually some countries are sort of leaders in that's in different styles and sort of innovation and things like that. And some countries sort of follow on a little bit after.
Yeah, absolutely. But, the thing is, you have those who loved your creatures from day one. And it was that you were not compromising on your style and who you were. You were putting it out there to the world, which meant that you had far more people to convert, to who would have liked your creatures. And I think that's something that I hope anyone listening will take out of this just as a starting point, which is the world really is the place that you need to be marketing to, rather than what I feel is we can just settle to our home territory. I've got a few comments and questions. Read My Lips 2020, loving the pink holly. Oh, well, sorry, I didn't mean that to be the first one about me. Thank you. Jessica Dance Maker, what a dream team. KMA Douglas, I absolutely love your work, Donna. Mind Bump Pay, love the focus on the positives. I mean, I could totally agree with that. Petra Burrs, so relating to this. Charlotte Lucy England, COVID has put a spanner in the worlds of an old machine, making us evolve from the old norm. Hashtag bring on the new. And I've got Kylie Falcus. Hi, Donna. Did you study in Hartlepool?
No.
Not in Hartlepool.
Aberdeen and at Gray's School of Art, and then at the Royal College of Art in London. So no, sorry.
Not Hartlepool. She thinks she knows you. One of a Kind Club. What inspired you in lockdown? And actually, can I ask a question before, and you can maybe answer in the same, because I was going to ask you the same. So many people have come on to this and said either they were finding this really motivating because they were ripping up rule books and they felt first time being creative and freedom, and then other people have said I have done nothing. I've not been creative at all. So with One of a Kind's club question, what's it been for you? And
I have to say I was the latter. So
the latter.
Creative at all. I mean, mainly because I think generally if you've got children and you had to homeschool, I defy anyone to be able to actually keep a job going, homeschool plus be creative. It just wasn't happening. And so I beat myself up about that for a bit, and especially about the homeschooling and feeling like I can't do this and having huge arguments with my 7-year-old. And so I just let go in the end. I just thought, I'm not going to force this. I can't do everything. So I have only just started feeling a bit of that creativity coming back. And because my kids are both away for the past few days, which has been amazing. But I'm going to start missing them soon, I think. But but what really kind of saved me through lockdown was the garden and being outdoors, having some time. I'm really lucky that I've got a garden and an allotment, and it was my time where I'd like just escape, and you so need that. And if you don't have a garden or an allotment, get outside and go.
Yeah, nature
was just so important. And I was just talking to Jess about it. Because it happened at sort of early spring, it just made us have a chance to like plant loads of things and spend loads of give it loads of attention. So now we're kind of reaping the rewards from that, and we're being able to eat products that we've grown ourselves. I got chickens. Actually, I got 3 chickens. So I'm just starting to get.
You got lockdown chickens.
Yeah. They're like, I gave them from our school, so they were like baby chicks when we first got them when the schools closed, and then now about a week and a half ago they started laying eggs. So it really feels like they're proper lockdown chickens, and that's just amazing too. I think getting in touch with nature again has been so important, and loving Gardener's World. And
it's been quite a common denominator through this time, how much we've relied, and as you said, very lucky to have outdoor space, but actually just anyone just to get outside, in the times that we might have been confined to our desks, we're able to go for that walk, or we're able to just be outside more, and it has been phenomenal. And I was talking to the CCMO of Not on the High Street, and we were talking about the changes of people's buying habits, and what different times, different departments are selling. And certainly it's been this rise of garden furniture and garden things, and people are staying indoors more, so they're doing up their homes and things. And I was wondering a couple of questions, which is, one is that you have a broad range, and actually I think the small business community can feel, even though we're our own bosses, like we're the hardest bosses ever, aren't we? So we can say to ourselves, now listen, you swim in that lane, you're not allowed to go and venture into another domain. And I'd love to ask you about that, because you did, you did. And then secondly, I'd love to ask, have you seen a change in buying habits from your customers?
Yeah, I never felt like I should stick to one thing. I just felt like if you're a designer, you can design anything, really. I think, and I really like the challenge of that, and trying different mediums and trying different. I remember early on, I was making, the first thing I did was the creatures, and then knitted baby blankets, which I called mini blankets because I thought they don't have to be just for babies. And then I started doing cushions, and the cushions really took off. And there was an amazing buyer, Denise Phillips. She bought into the cushions for John Lewis, and I was getting quite a regular order from John Lewis, which was great. And that kind of helped us grow. But I do remember thinking, wow, this is so seasonal. Like I'm really just having everything happening at one time of the year. And what can I make that would sell to the same kind of stores in the same sort of language? Because I feel like it's so important when you're doing your own work. You have to create that unique selling point, the unique handwriting. And there's no point of I feel like sort of no point of doing it unless you have that. Because what have you got to offer? You need to offer something new and original that's really you and personal. So I had created that with the style of handwriting that I used in the cushions and the creatures and the blankets. But then, started thinking, how can I make it less seasonal? And then that's where the ceramics came in. I thought I can still draw in the same way and put them on faces onto the ceramics. And then that's sort of how it's just evolved. Each time I'm thinking, I'd like to try some towels, or I'd like to try some. And I do think if you want to try something and you kind of put that thought out there, sometimes then opportunities just sort of happen and land in your lap. And you're like, I was just thinking that would have been really good to do that. So that,
well, it's that thing, isn't it? If you put it out to the universe, so many people on the podcast have said the same in their own, be it fruit juices that they sell or advertising agencies they build. If you put it out there in the ether, somehow
as a magic way,
there's a magic thing that happens, isn't there? Yeah. And tell me about then this period of time, because I know you, for instance, you launched print in lockdown, which was, and it says, "I miss your face," which really is a product that represents this period of time. And, you know, you're not necessarily known, are you, for prints and those sorts of things. So again, you were going into another area.
Yeah, we have done some prints before. Just that kind of any time I get a little idea, I'll do a new one. But that was just something I felt like people are going to want to send friends and family, something just to let them know that they're thinking of each other. And I was speaking to Lottie, who's been she's our person who sends everything out, and she deals with all the website orders. And she really said that she saw a real increase in people wanting things wrapped up as presents with notes saying, "I'm thinking of you," and that's really nice. And that so people kind of used us as a vehicle to kind of pass on love and just the thoughts that they were being remembered, and that in this kind of crazy time. So that is really nice. Yeah. And I think, what else did I try and do? I mean, I was kind of doing the bare minimum, trying to get through. But now that I have got a bit of headspace and time again, and the kids don't have to be schooled, we're working on their new collection. We're launching it in, as I say, well, now kind of very soon, and seeing how we can do that without doing our kind of typical trade show situation. So we've done a nice little shoot. That was really lovely to get out. And we're trying to do printed brochures that we can send to people, because it's so nice to get something real in the post rather than just an email. I think the type of product maybe hasn't changed so much, but it's more...
The way it's been delivered has...
The other thing, actually, I've just remembered, we're thinking about doing more bespoke kind of things, because we feel like we are able to do that being a small company. So we don't have to make hundreds and thousands like mass-produced things. We can just make one-off. So we're getting more and more requests for sort of tailored products with their names embroidered on them, or like someone might want a creature with actually somebody wants an otter made into a giant, or different animals and things that mean something to them. So that's quite interesting, and it's a nice thing to be able to offer and do as well as making.
I love your customers. You know, they are after my own heart. They want a giant otter.
Yeah. And then we've had one someone asking for a giant, one of our mini giants with suspenders on.
You're like, each to their own, each to their own. That's fine. I've got more comments here. Norley, we love Donna's work at first sight and are super happy to carry her work in our store in Munich, Germany now.
Oh, hi.
Brave new girl. Love that you take creative time out to evolve. I think that is massively key that we should all take out of this conversation. Coastal Harbour, hard to juggle being creative and homeschooling. I think Donna would.
Yes, I've seen it.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
Maisie's house. So glad you said that, Donna. I'm a mum of 3 and really struggled, feeling guilty that I was working that I was working. Bring on September. Yes, absolutely. Thoughtful Potter. Nature has helped me so much. Growing veg, keeping chickens, kept me going over lockdown too. Martha and Herpsy. Variety of product also keeps it interesting for yourself as a designer. And I think we can't underestimate that. That's literally what my whole morning walk was talking about, where you get stuck into something, but actually you have to stoke your own fire because you've got to warm everybody. So actually it's your responsibility, isn't it, to do that? I've got a question. Charlotte Lucy, England. Are there different regulations you need to be aware of before selling in other countries? And where is a good place to look for that information?
That's a really good question, because it depends on the type of product you're selling. We're actually getting our some of our products safety tested more stringently than we ever have done for Japanese market, because we've changed our distributor and they've asked for that in when they're going to be importing it. So we've got to get the creatures a food safety test. It's really, I find it actually all a bit difficult.
What, in case someone eats it?
Not really sure. I think it's one of the things that they've asked for. I know it's, but yeah, it's worth checking out the like the Chamber of Commerce in those countries that you're selling to. But it's not the easiest thing to find out. You do have to do a bit of digging and a bit of research. But for products that are not eaten, I would say is probably less stringent. Yeah.
And would you recommend, because, talking on that international side of things, would you, or do you know or recommend you've got a distributor. So, this sort of notion that everyone's sitting, in the studio where you are, knowing all of the boutiques across the globe. Of course you don't, and I actually think that's another thing. I don't know whether there is enough information out there. I know that the government website has huge amounts of on international exporting and all these things, but actually finding a distributor, tell me about that, and if there's any tips on finding someone who can represent you.
I've had good and bad experiences with distributors, and if you have a good one, it's the best thing ever, because you pay them a commission, but they will find your customers. They will probably ship the goods over in one big group rather than sending lots of different parcels. You'll get kind of a minimum guaranteed income from that distributor if you negotiate well at the beginning. So there's lots of positives, and they know, and also the main thing I suppose is they know their territory, so they know the kind of products they'll want, they'll sell. They'll be able to advise you on that, and they'll be able to advise you on exporting or importing. They should know all that, so that is really good. I've only just started with this new Japanese one, so we're still having teething problems at the moment, and I do remember so it's only Japan I think we have a distributor for, and the rest of the world we just sell through these trade shows and we'll find a buyer.
Right. Okay.
And we sell directly, and I kind of like a bit of both, because I really like the the openness of, or just having that relationship with the customer. That's really important, because I just feel like, I mean, you can't underestimate having contact with your customers, and they feel like they know you and they've helped you grow your brand, and that's so important. Well, you don't really get that with distributors, because you don't know who you're selling to actually at the end of the day in that territory. And
finding these people.
Finding them, yeah. So we found that's through the trade shows actually. We
Right.
found, and also as you become a bit more known, and I think people would probably find through Instagram and things. Instagram, as soon as you get a bit more of a following, and you've got brilliant pictures that are getting picked up and spread around the web, that's how people will find you as well. So it's much more probably accessible than it was when I first.
Yes, because it's amazing, isn't it? We forget, and let everyone be reminded in a way that your social media feeds and what you do is not purely for customers. It can be B2C, so business to customers, but it can be B2B. That actually Instagram, your social feed, is really your catalogue. It is the reason that maybe a distributor might contact you, maybe a shop might contact you to stock your products. So it's almost like you always have to have that sort of filter. You know, if you look at your melody of what you're planning on social, you know, do look at it from that commercial B2B element, as much as that you just want likes and you want your brand to be, you know, selling to customers. It's an interesting, much easier, hey, than when you started.
Yeah, it is. And I do kind of forget that when because you sort of think, you put things on your story, and I put things about my kids and things, and then think, oh God, who's just you forget who's just seen that. So you do have to make sure that your feed, certainly your feed, is quite on brand in a way, and you're selling yourself, aren't you? So if you've got, it's great to have photos of to make people feel like you're, because what I do sort of is put my product pictures, behind the scenes shots, but I also put me and my family and things like that, because I don't want it just to be like sell. I want it to be quite a personal thing. But yeah, I do have to kind of check myself every now and again and go like, oh yeah, that is going out to everybody. But I try and keep it quite real as well.
Well, it's and you know, and also I would just say I've got a couple more questions before I let you go to your. I mean, I can't believe it. You're in the middle, basically, of launching your new collection, so we're honoured to have you on here. What would you say? So, you know, Donna Wilson as a brand, and I speak often about this. You know, some would say it's niche. It's a specific style. It's Donna Wilson. This is it. And I've been speaking more and more to people saying niche is the only way, in a way. Like the world, I would say, is going to be full as we get sort of mass advertised to with Amazons of the world, and you can get anything you want. And do you know what I mean? It can be about shipping and price.
Yeah.
The niche brands, the brands who have a loyal following, people who relate to the brand, who relate to your style, who relate to your design, unless anything catastrophic goes wrong, we're with you forever. You know, but you know, I'm definitely with you forever. So I think that's such a new way of thinking. When, if you wanted to read the classic grey business book, you know, it possibly is going to talk to you about volume, about internationalization, about more is more. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are, because I admire you, as I said, to finding all the Donna Wilson fans in the world and staying true to that. And, you know, you've stood the test of time, and you will, I would say. You're a brand of the future, rather than almost maybe at this point in time in your journey, you'd be on shaky grounds, because, you know, you would have exploded. And then where do you go?
It's really interesting, because I have a bit of hindsight now, because I've done it for so long, and I always felt like I wanted to, in the beginning, I felt like I really wanted to stay small. I liked the niche. I liked being quite different to what everyone else is doing, and carving my own kind of route. And then as time went on, and you know, your overheads are bigger and you have more staff and you have more trade shows to do, you do need to make it commercial. And I kind of went along like that, and we had a huge success in 2010 when I won the Elle Decoration Designer of the Year. So then loads of people started to know us, and it actually became, I felt like it was growing, and I was washed along with it, and I was of course I was enjoying it, and it was really hard work, but I wanted to grow it. And then a bit further down the line, I lost sight of that really first being unique type thing, and always pushing on and being innovative, and I lost sight of that because it was selling. It was really working and it was selling. And then I started to think, I want to be bigger. I don't know why. I think that was what people thought that I would want. And people would always say, what's your 5-year plan, and blah, blah, blah. And I got sort of, as I say, like washed along and thinking that I had to be bigger and better and do more cheaper products and mass produce. That was never my plan to start with. So interestingly, how you know, the fall in the sort of high street stores and things like that, it's made me reassess that again. And as I say, I had that sort of epiphany a few years ago, and I realized that I haven't done any really new stuff anyway and for a while. So I've kind of gone full circle, and now I really do want to celebrate the fact that we are really small. We can do things that are unique. We can do things that are a bit risky and daring, because we don't have to make thousands of them. And if they don't work, we do something else.
Yeah.
So, and it keeps it so much more interesting. And there's a lot of something to be said for not growing huge, as you have just said, because why do we want all that extra stress and responsibility? And as long as you can make it viable, that's I mean, you have to have that balance, because you have to be able to pay people and pay yourself and make it viable and work. Then keeping it niche, and I think you're right, I think that's the way the world is going. We can never compete with the high street ever, because we've got that.
But I think there was a period of time where I think small businesses didn't know whether they should be and that they could. And there's like these outlier brands that have, and you sort of think, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. But I think that the point is also, if I'm a keen visualizer, so I will visualize the future. So, you know, you can build and have these massive peaks and highs. Well, if it is a lifestyle brand, as in you want to have a good life living in your business, do you know what I mean? Being part of your business for a long period of time. You're not looking to sell it and own Necker Island. Well, then what are you going to do when you've peaked?
Exactly.
Because actually it means that this thing is, and I love what you just said. You said you got swept away with it. And I think that that's what can happen. And someone asked, a comment here was from KMA Douglas, is there any advice you could give to a new business starting out? Well, I think actually that is a really good piece of advice that is not often given out, which is actually, it's not to say that you're not profitable and that you're not making good money, but it is the difference between maybe having a commercial high that actually takes you into another territory you can never get back from. And then you've got to just keep up. And, you know, at Nottingham High Street, we would call it the tech arms race, you know, and once you're in the tech arms race, when actually your USP is your technical ability, what world is that you're entering? And once you're in, you can't bow out, because it will be seen as a failure. So actually, is it better to just go, I'm out of this race anyway, to start with, and you can keep your integrity? Yeah,
that's exactly it. It's keeping the integrity, because otherwise, why are you doing what you're doing? You know, it's so important. And you're right, after a few years, you be spat out, and then you won't be able to do what you love doing. So
and you've not concentrated on what you are. You probably have lost yourself to it as well. So a double whammy in a way. You're spat out, and you're a chewed up version of what went in. I mean, I'm using all these analogies, chewed up versions. It's sounding all a bit bleak, isn't it? But hopefully everyone understands what we're talking about, because I think that is the confidence people need to say, actually small is mighty. And don't, and a lot of big businesses and dinosaurs out there who are all shutting their shops. I would say that they're looking and they're wishing that maybe some other decisions had been made.
That's so true. Yeah. And we're doing all right, really, and because we are small enough to sort of evolve and
ride the storms.
Yeah, and we don't have hundreds of people above us saying we need to do this because you need to make this amount of money. We're our own bosses, so it's up to us to do that, isn't it? So.
A couple more comments before you go. Martha and Hepsi, making contacts is so much more achievable with social media than when we started out. And actually, I would go as far as to say, Martha and Hepsi, it's making friends, not contacts. That is, you must have so many suppliers, Donna, that that you've worked with for so long. Yeah,
we have. I mean, we speak to them pretty much daily, or at least weekly. Some of the people that make our creatures and things, and we're kind of like a little bit of a support person for them, So that's really nice, isn't it? So.
Coastal Harbour, niche is the best. It's original and it's distinctive. Petra Bose, love your honesty, Donna. Samphire Glass, great advice. Always try to be individual and niche. Can I just ask you one question before you go? What would you say you as a founder have learnt through this time? Like, if you think about that Duracell battery, what has been put into that Duracell battery thanks to this period of time?
I think it's probably that we need to evolve. We need to make changes. We need to think. I think I've been thinking more about the environment as well, because we're obviously being out in nature. It's making you think about it, and I don't want to. I feel like there was loads of stuff in the news about that before COVID happened, and it's getting a bit forgotten. We need to, a lot of us have started cycling to work, which is just a really big positive because it gets you fit as well as you're not, So it's thinking about all the kind of impact that we've got as a company and how we can, make that less no impact, basically. And thinking about what good you do. That's another thing I think it's taught, because you've all the NHS workers and they weren't celebrated before, and I think they are now. So it's like what good are we doing? So it's sort of thinking about addressing all those things, and also just giving yourself that time to stand back from it all and try and evolve. That's another thing that it's probably done for a lot of people. Maybe if things weren't working before, how get out of them and start a new beginning, isn't it? I think a bit.
Well, you know what? Even I don't know for everyone else, but I am so taking that out of this conversation, because you've actually crystallized what I was thinking this morning, that time out is so needed for founders. And potentially during this period of time, we all think, oh, well, we've had time out. Well, actually, if you've been doing homeschooling, I myself doing SME SOS, there's been no time out, and actually we actually need a break, and no one's going on holiday potentially. So it is so really important, isn't it? And as ever, thank you, Donna, so much. I absolutely, for those who missed it, I'm snuggled up to these beauties every single day outside under a tree, and they're just, you're just so talented, and it's just such an honor to know you. And for anyone who hasn't heard Donna's podcast with me on Conversations of Inspiration, whatever you've heard now, you get a whole hour's worth on our conversation. But thank you so much for just being you and really shining a light on doing it Donna's way. It's just a privilege.
Oh, thank you, Holly. That's really nice.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to let you go back to launching, and I'm now going to summarize you and make you blush. So, but I'll sending you so much love, and thank you for your time.
Okay, brilliant. Take care. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Bye. Well, I mean, she is just, I absolutely love that woman because she's so, it's not only her accent as well, I just absolutely adore, but she's so down to earth and real. And for anyone, you know, who's thinking about internationalization, she makes it feel like it's totally possible. If anyone feels that they, you know, need to be big, she makes being small completely commercially possible. So the few things I would say I've taken out of that. So embrace the creative challenge of finding a new way in this time. Innovation. You know, she can't go to her trade shows, which she's been doing for 17 years. And actually, when she realized, you know, thinks about it, it wasn't creatively stimulating her anymore. Potentially, even her clients were feeling the same about going to 17 years worth of trade shows. So what would, you know, thanks to COVID, it's broken. And so actually, if we don't break things ourselves, we do not want to rely on pandemics, everybody, to break things. We do need to maybe diarize breaking some shit. Do you know? So let's think about that. Let's think about innovation. Let's think about, you know, if you have done something for 5 years, maybe just put a cap on that and say, we never will do the same thing for more than 5 years. That could be a business rule that us small businesses live by. Don't be restricted by one type of product. If anyone can hear that, absolutely. Donna said it brilliantly. You're a designer, so just design whatever you want. And that is really important. So Donna went from her creatures, she then went into cushions, she then went into ceramics, she then went into prints if she feels like it. If you have something that is distinctly yours, and that is the point, Donna Wilson is a poster girl on being distinctly different. Are you really distinctly different? And that is absolutely key. And third thing that nicely pivots into is niche is the future. Think global. I said it at the beginning. No one else on any podcast has said it as Donna has said. So if you want to listen to her podcast about internationalization, she basically looked at the map and she knew that all over the world, there would be Donna Wilson fans. There would be the people who loved little crazy sort of creatures that were knitted. You know, if you actually think about that, and she would have they're not knitted, they're much better than knitted, not better, God, I'm getting tongue-tied, but basically she knew that there were Donna fans all over the world who would love her creatures. So she just went all over the world. And that is what I want you all to think about. If she knew that there was not enough boutiques in the UK that would make her idea commercially viable, so she didn't stop doing the creatures, she just went globally, and she was bigger in Japan before anyone in the UK really knew who Donna Wilson was. So please take that on board with all of this Brexit and everything. I want you to not be scared, because Brexit will come and go, pandemics will come and go, recessions will come and go, but you have to stand the test of time. And so I really, there's a few tips. Department of International Trade and the Chamber of Commerce International Trade Club are both ports of call. Thanks to Footwear Studio for letting us know those tips, and also consider your social media presence in those places. What a great tip there. If you want to go international, start to reach out to those countries. Who could you start working with? Do they have distributors that you could work with? So the world's your oyster, literally. For now, I just love that conversation. I feel completely pumped. I was on a bit of a, not low this morning, but I needed creatively recharging, and I knew Donna would be my cup of tea with that extra sugar lump at the bottom. Lots of love to you all. Del, thank you so much for making these things possible. I say it each time, but it's true. It is an amazing opportunity. These amazing founders giving us this time when Donna's launching a whole new range. She's here talking to us about her tips. And I think we should all be pretty humbled by the outpour of love for us small businesses. They've obviously got something that they've realized that maybe you're the ones to watch and that you're the future. But anyway, lots of love to you all.